And thanks for everybody for joining today's Ask the Expert session. This is about level-aware aggregations, which is one of QuickSight's calculation methods, um, and very popular. There are a lot of cool stuffs you can do with level-aware aggregations, and we do see there are questions being brought up into our community page. So wanted to go through what level-aware aggregations are, what are the order of evaluations that's being applied in QuickSight, and walk through a demo that will make things little clear, hopefully. And we can take any questions that you have. Okay, so we're going to start off with order of evaluation in Amazon QuickSight. Then we're going to go into demo, and then we'll follow up with some resources and Q&A. So let me jump onto. Okay, so in QuickSight, when you create calculations and put it into a dashboard or analysis, um, behind the scene there are certain level of events that happens behind the scene, and for calculation where we don't have any level aggregation, which is simple calculations, the order of evaluations you can see on the left hand side. But any of those different kind of calculations where there's no level of aggregates, pre-filter kind of aggregates, and pre-aggregate, um,
देखिए मुझे आता है मैं आईटी में
the steps are pretty similar. So essentially, when QuickSight does go through displaying the data into your dashboard, the first step that it evaluates is the pre-filter level. So the pre-filter level is where all the simple calculations is taken care of, and simple calculations can be considered as things like, sum or discounts or average, using any of those construct or functions that you have defined a calculations, either in your data set or within your analysis. So those simple calculations, precedes anything that you might put into your dashboard. So that's the pre-filter level, and once the calculation is evaluated, then goes for the checking for any level of aggregations or not. Then it goes to the pre-aggregation level. So just to be clear, the calculation happens at the very beginning, and then if you have put any filter, that's what being applied in the pre-aggregate level. So the analysis filters are something that you have put into your dashboard, into your sheet or parameter control, which basically dictates what are the different rows going to be displayed into your dashboard. So these are analysis filters. After the analysis filters are being applied, then comes to your level aggregate check as well. This is for the pre-aggregate level checks. Once that is done, then the top and bottom end filters are applied. So you can have couple of filter. One is analysis filter, like simple filters, checkbox, or simple, text box, and then top and bottom end filters. So like, top 10, customers by sales, or bottom end regions by, profits, so on and so forth. So those are being applied at the pre-aggregate level, both analysis filter and top and bottom end filters. Once that analysis filter and bottom end filter, top and bottom end filters have gone through and evaluated, it comes to your display level. And at the display level is when you might have other aggregations, right? So you can display those data into on visuals, and you might also apply some filters. So filters is here like, include, exclude. We'll show about those, how we apply on visual filters there. But there could be also aggregations there as well. In terms of tables that you have put into your dashboard, table calculations does go through, and any totals and subtotals is at the very bottom layer. So just order evaluation is pre-filter level, simple calculations, checking for level aggregations. Pre-aggregate level, that's where the main filters being applied, analysis filter and top and bottom filter, and then on visual you have aggregations and filter, table calculations and total subtotals. So they're the same order of evaluation goes through even for the pre-filter. So the pre-filter, because you have created a calculation on the pre-filter level, so that's where the pre-filter level calculation being evaluated. Then it goes through your pre-aggregate level, analysis filter, top and bottom filter, and then any on visual aggregations and filter comes at the very bottom part, which is at the display level. Pre-aggregate, the same order of evaluation, simple calculations, checking for level or aggregate, so no pre-filter here. Now, your analysis filter being applied first prior to it goes to the pre-aggregation level, and that's where there are calculations and filter being applied. And once that is done, then you can apply top and bottom end filters on top of the pre-aggregated evaluation. Then it goes into your display level on visual aggregation filter. Okay, just to give this thing into perspective, I have put together a demo which will make things clear. So let's go through with no level aware aggregations. If you don't have any pre-filter or pre-aggregate calculations, how would that evaluation look like? So in this simple demo, I'm making use of Formula One race data, and just to make things a little easier to understand what this data is. So this data is for each year, several rounds of races go through, and each race is actually considered, or each of those races have a race ID. So you can see 2021 round one, 1052 is the race ID. So that constitute one particular race, right? So Bahrain International Circuit, and then another race is identified by another race ID 1053, and so on and so forth. So in each of these races, there are different drivers, right? As you can see, and at the end of the race, they are identified in the position order. How did they finish, right? So if you finish in position order one, that's the race winner. And we have created a calculated field, simple calculated field, just if else statement um, called race win. So the definition of race win is if else position order equals to one, otherwise zero. So as you can see, position order one, and so race win value is one for this driver, Lewis Hamilton, right? Then another calculation, simple calculation I put there, which is race count. So the race count is just a simple distinct count of race ID, and we can see it here. If we see race count, um, it's a distinct count of race ID, plain simple calculation, which essentially mean it's like if you are aware of factless fact. So this is kind of factless fact because there's an event happen, just a count of race ID. So each of these row have one value, which is the count of race ID. Now, if we see our order of evaluation with no LAA, we have simple calculation, which is the pre-filter level, and then we'll go through these two different kind of filter. So for the demonstration, I have a year filter, which is analysis filter. So I have a year filter. So this data actually shows all the years of races since 1950 all the way to 2021. Now, if we apply, just take a look at carefully, our race count, which is our simple calculations, evaluated as one for each of the individual rows. And we do also have a total. We do have a total here. So total on race count is evaluated across all the different rows of data. And essentially, the 1057 total number of races has been run. Now, if we filter this out, just to show 2020 and 2021 data, you can see the race count is actually changed based on the number of races or distinct race IDs in 2020 and 2021. So in the simple calculation effect, our analysis filter takes precedence, and then it comes to our into our pre-aggregate level. So we have not used pre-aggregate yet, so that's what it is evaluated, and it's being displayed here after applying the simple count, right? Now if we apply another layer of filtering, let's let's apply another filter, top and bottom end filter, which will be, we want to find out the top two driver in these 2 years, and we'll be defining the top two driver by the number of races that they have won, right? So we have total 39 races in these 2 years. So let's see if we apply our top n filter on driver full name. Let's see how does that look like. And it will be based on race win. Oops, sorry. I was choosing a different filter. Now there you go. So we have driver full name. So let's change this. Let's change this filter type to top and bottom filter. And then we're going to show top two drivers by race win. So if you apply it, now you can see there are different rows there, but there are only two driver names being listed here. So we have just Lewis Hamilton and Max Verstappen. So in these 2 years, which is our analysis filter, we do also have a two uh, top two filter based on the sum of race wins. So there's like 31. These two drivers has contributed to 31 out of total 39 races, right? So this is how our simple calculations take effect within QuickSight. Now, this is pretty simple. If you have, very detailed data and want to filter it out with simple calculation, it's very effective. Our simple calculation in this case is race count, which is aggregated at the total level as well, and which is what we have been seeing in the visual, like total and subtotal. We have on visual total and subtotal is calculated, which is based on the definition of the race count, which is distinct count, right? Because we have more than 39 rows here. But because our definition was distinct count of races, we do see only 39 rows here. So that definition has been respected even though we are applying the sum at the very bottom layer. Okay. We'll take the questions at the end. So let me just finish this demo. Hopefully that's fine. All right, so this is our simple calculation. Now, if we apply pre-filter, how does it look like? So now we want to show, even though we are going to apply filter at our analysis layer, but we want to capture total number of wins by a driver um, all over, right? Across all the different years and across all the circuits, across all the different countries, and so on and so forth, right? So we have created a pre-filter level aggregation called win by driver, right? So let's take a look at what wins by driver look like. My definition of wins by driver is sum over, which is our leveler aggregation calculation method. So any calculation like sum, mean, count, if we have it over, that means our leveler aggregation. So sum over the metrics, in this case, race win, and our partition by clause is driver ID. So each driver, how many race wins the driver had, and the pre-filter clause. So this is our definition of wins by driver. So now we can see, even though this driver, Lewis Hamilton, for constructor McLaren, has 21 race wins, but my wins by driver is 103. And this has remained constant, even though there are multiple rows for the driver, the same driver, right? Because they have driven in different constructor, right? As you can see, the number of wins by driver remains consistent across different rows. Now let's see how does it affect if we change our constructor. Let's select McLaren. and maybe Ferrari. With our analysis filter, the wins by driver, which is our pre-filter aggregates, does not change. So Lewis Hamilton all over 103, or Michael Schumacher is 91, Sebastian Vettel 53. So they remain unchanged. And this is something that you could use for many applications. For example, you want to find out, the best driver all over, and then you want to find out, in a particular in a particular row. For example, in this case, we have a constructor name. So for a particular constructor, what percentage of that driver win contributes to total wins by that driver? So you can do those kind of analysis, and this is just one form, but you can add other aggregations or other categories. Maybe it's a country or circuits. So based on those, you can also perform the percentage of win of the driver in those other categories. Now, what happens if we apply a top and bottom end filter? Let's do that. So in this case, the same driver constructor name, and sorry, again, I'm doing the same mistake again. So let's do. So change the filter type, top and bottom filter. And I'm going to show the top two drivers by all-time wins. So if we apply that, again, it's showing all across the top two driver in the history of Formula One. Even though we have selected constructor names, um, so we do still see these top two drivers, right? So this is our pre-filter, which remains unchanged. The value of the pre-filter aggregation remains unchanged, even though we have, analysis filter and top end and bottom filter. Now we do also have another kind of filtering. Let's delete this filter, and then we can show this. We do have also another level of filtering on the display, which will activate when you click on any particular row, and you can see focus only or exclude. So that is happening at the very last layer, at the bottommost layer. So all your pre-filter aggregation will happen, all your analysis filter will take effect. Then comes the top and bottom end filter, and then if you have any exclusion or focus only, that will take effect. Now let's go to the pre-aggregates. So if you go to the pre-aggregate, sometimes it's confusing how pre-aggregate is different from simple aggregation. Like we do have a rest win, which is aggregated at the total level, but sometimes you'd see the wins, the pre-aggregates is similar to race wins. It looks like similar, but that's not the case. So for that demo, I have created another calculation, wins in the focus group, which is my pre-aggregate. So let me see what is wins in the focus group looks like. So it's similar to pre-filter, which is sum over S win driver ID, but I have a pre-aggregate filter, pre-aggregate statement there. So now if we see these drivers across all the constructor names, it's similar to our win by driver because we don't have any filter in the analysis level. So the wins by filter, which is our pre-filter, and wins in the focus group are basically the same because we have not applied any filter here. Now, if I create an analysis filter, let's say we are going to apply McLaren and Ferrari. Definitely now our wins in focus group, which is pre-aggregate, has changed. Why? Because pre-aggregates is applied after the analysis filter is done. So all the rows after the filter on the analysis filter level is applied, then the pre-aggregation will take effect. So now we can see Lewis Hamilton for McLaren has 21 races win, all over 103, and then race win is 21, which is for the McLaren. Now for Michael Schumacher is the same 72 and 72. Now if we see someone like Alan Prost, he has 35 wins in the focus group, right, with a pre-aggregate, but at the for the Ferrari level it's 5 and the for McLaren is 30. So it's spread across in multiple constructor because we have the different constructors for the same driver, and that's why it's spread out. So this is where we do see the difference between the simple calculation, aggregation, and our pre-aggregated calculation. So pre-aggregate calculation will be in your particular focus group. So this focus group is our McLaren and Ferrari, right? So we are trying to find out which what are the total wins for a driver in this focus group. So this is something that you could use for affinity analysis. You want to see, which driver has, um, more affinity towards, certain category, like, constructor or country or circuits. So you can apply and see, how does that driver is performing within that focus group. So this is very effective for those kind of affinity analysis. Now, if I apply a top and bottom end filter, let's see how does that work. Again, the same mistake. Now, again, we want to see the top two drivers for McLaren and Ferrari, right? Not all over the constructors. So in this case, we're gonna do focus group, senior focus group. Now, just three drivers came across because there is a tie here. So you can see for these McLaren and Ferrari, we do have three drivers based on the wins in the focus group. Now, if we change this, if we add something else here, for example, if we add Mercedes, then these values will be changing. Yeah. So now we have just Lewis Hamilton and Michael Schumacher, right? Because my focus group has changed, and then I have a different set of drivers, which is better than the other focus group. Now I can do some other sort of calculations here. Let me just remove this filter. Now using this pre-filter, you can actually do some kind of other calculations like percentage win by a driver within that focus group. So for example, I have created another, so let me show this column. So now what this dictates is within my focus group of McLaren, Ferrari, and Mercedes, what is the contribution of these drivers win in this focus group, right? So for this purpose, I don't need the constructor name here. Now I can see Lewis Hamilton contribution is 90%. Michael Schumacher has 13.28%, Sebastian Vettel 2.58%. So now I can change in a different focus group and find out which driver has contribution at what amount of contribution the driver had in that focus group. So that's the pre-aggregate level filter, pre-aggregate level calculations.